releases in spring 2019.
Okay, all of these games are pretty cool, but come on Nintendo, how about some news on Metroid Prime 4 already? Please? I was well aware that we wouldn't be getting any news regarding Metroid Prime 4 anytime soon after its reveal, since Nintendo has already stated that they only announced the game earlier than planned to satisfy the fans, such as myself. And that they would rather wait until they have something more concrete or closer to how the final game might look and play before showing any trailers. But part of me is still too excited about this game to simply just be asked to sit down and wait. Especially since that idea of a Xenoblade X port for the Switch has been sort of deconfirmed up to this point. Well, so much for my conspiracy theories, I guess. And seeing how many of you have constantly asked about my ideas or mechanics that I would like to see in the game on my social media, I decided to cave into the suggestion and share with you my personal 2 cents on the matter. But first, let's have another quick recap on the little information we have regarding Metroid Prime 4 so far. As of the writing of this video, all that we know is that the game is being produced by Kensuke Tanabe, who also produced the Metroid Prime trilogy and the 3DS spin-off Federation Force. While there's still no clear news on the team developing the game, according to an interview made by IGN, Retro Studios is not in charge of the game's creation. And in terms of the story, all that we can really speculate is that the bounty hunter Sylix from Metroid Prime Hunters will most likely play the role of a villain of sorts. We can speculate this because we see his ship, the Delano 7, chasing Samus at the end of Metroid Prime 3, and the secret ending of Federation Force also hints at him stealing a baby Metroid from a Galactic Federation outpost. It's also worth noting that, according to an interview, Kensuke Tanabe also stated that the story revolving Dark Samus and the Phazon are officially over, and that he would rather focus on creating a new narrative with Sylix, and so it's highly unlikely that we will see either the doppelganger or the radioactive substance make a return on this next installment. And that's all we really know so far, so now with that out of the way, how about I get to discussing my thoughts on what I like to see on Metroid Prime 4. To be quite honest, before I even sat down to write this script, I didn't have much of an idea of what I wanted to see in the new game, since I'm very content with the simple fact that we're getting a Metroid game on the Switch in what is easily my favorite style of gameplay for the series. So as long as this game plays and feels like any of the previous games in the Prime trilogy with its gameplay and presentation, then I'm going to be very happy with the end results. But with that said, please don't force me to use motion controls. I want to play this game on my bed. So I don't want some mission-based gameplay like in Federation Force or constant escape sequences like in Prime Hunters. All I really want is to explore one planet and get absorbed in its atmosphere and locations while discovering the backstory of the world that I'm visiting. I wouldn't mind if it was a more story-driven installment like Prime 3, as long as we get some proper character or story development and not having characters like the Aurora units constantly contacting you every 5 minutes or so. But I would prefer if it's something more similar to the experience I got from the first 2 games in the trilogy that let me put the pieces of the puzzle together and kinda create a narrative to my own adventure. At the moment, I really can't think of much in terms of new gameplay mechanics, but what I really want to see is the game incorporate more of your power-ups into puzzle elements or boss fights, so that it feels like I'm actually using my entire armory to my benefit. Something more akin to the battles against Quadraxis, the Omega Pirate, or even Thordis to some extent. I guess the one thought that has crossed my mind is, what if Prime 4 was sort of an open world experience like Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey? The planet is this one huge world that you're completely free to explore at your own leisure, with a couple of areas blocked off because you need a specific power-up or weapon. It's something that I've dabbled in my mind lately, and well, to be honest, if this were the case, I would like to see something along the lines of, well, my other favorite video game, that being Xenoblade Chronicles X, where you're free to explore the planet, but you slowly unlock new skills that enhance your exploration and combat abilities that help you muster the confidence to venture into certain areas that house some tougher enemies. But my main fear with the open world approach is that sometimes the world itself can feel barren and deserted, not housing many things to do in them, and this also means that compromises have to be made in terms of the difficulty, so that the player can truly journey into any area that he or she wishes to go. I guess my other main worry of this idea is that nowadays it feels like every game needs to be an open world in some aspect. It's clearly the new hot trend in video games like fighting games were back in the 90s. So if Metroid were to follow this trend, I fear that it might lose its special flair and just blend in with the rest of the sci-fi crowd. And so I would personally prefer if it's designed with the same mentality as the previous games in the Prime series. If they do go with the open world aesthetic, I wish that certain areas still require you to have a specific power-up in your inventory in order to reach them, similarly to how it worked in A Link Between Worlds. But honestly, I still stand by the idea that if the original formula for the Prime series isn't inherently broken, then why try and fix it? Some other cool things that I would like for the developers to maybe consider adding into the game is perhaps an achievement system like the one in Prime 3 that could promote a certain style or approach to gameplay. And maybe some hidden weapons or armor pieces that aren't mandatory to beat the game but can be very useful to the player. Like say the way the Wave Buster or Dark Burst were bonus weapons you can find but make them as useful like the Dr. Light capsules from the Mega Man X series. But if they do decide to go with this idea, my one request would be that we don't tell the players anything about these upgrades in any direct or promotional material, and instead leave vague clues that you can actually find something else in the world, perhaps even in the form of some side quests. That way we don't follow the other popular trend in gaming where developers pretty much reveal almost every minute detail of their games months before it's even set to release. In terms of story, I would really like for Metroid Prime 4 to take an approach like Echoes or Hunters, in the sense that there are no major appearances from both the Space Pirates or the Galactic Federation, and instead have them play a smaller role as Samus tries to take down a new threat. Honestly, I feel a little burnout from the idea of having to stop the Space Pirates from using some new MacGuffin to try and take over the universe, so it would be cool to see what new enemy the developers can come up with to have fight Samus. If you have to include the pirates in the game, then I think it'd be cool if they were more of a side villain you thought on specific locations like in Metroid Prime 2, or used as a tool to establish a power gap between them and the new enemy to help players put things into perspective. Considering what I mentioned earlier, it's safe to say that Sylix will probably be the one using the Metroids as a MacGuffin, but I think it would be pretty cool if the pirates this time around are also trying to steal the Metroids for themselves rather than just teaming up with a bounty hunter. Or maybe use this as an opportunity to create something like a sequel to Metroid Prime Hunters, where this time around it's different bounty hunters trying to steal the Metroid from the hands of Sylix. I really like the concept and idea for Metroid Prime Hunters, and honestly think it's the limitations of the Nintendo DS that caused a lot of the compromises that made me dislike the game in the long run. But I wouldn't mind seeing that formula make a comeback with better controls and level design. One area of the game that not many people are talking about, but I think it's extremely important, is its sound design and music. The reason I bring this up is because the last 3 Metroid titles that have been released only had okay or serviceable music, since most of it was either atmospheric, cinematic, or just unnoticeable like in the case for Federation Force. So I can't stress how important it is to me for Prime 4's soundtrack to be memorable like it was on Prime 1 or even Super Metroid. One of my beliefs has always been that a great soundtrack can make your game more memorable in the long run. Just look at The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario, Final Fantasy, Banjo-Kazooie, and even Nier Automata. And the same applies to Metroid Prime 1 and Prime 2. And well, Metroid Prime 3 I don't think has the best soundtrack, but it's got its songs, so I hope that Prime 4 follows on the same trend to bring us memorable tunes for the series. As for the sound effects, the same rules kinda apply, but the main reason I bring this up is because, like I mentioned on my Thoughts on Samus Returns video, I was a bit disappointing of the reuse of Metroid Prime sound effects. So even though Prime 4 is technically, another Prime game, I hope they make new versions of the iconic sound effects so that this game can truly feel like a new series and not tie itself down to the previous installments. Another topic that I see many people discussing on the internet is whether or not Metroid Prime 4 should have a multiplayer mode. In my eyes, I don't think the series really needs it, but I wouldn't be bothered by it as long as the main campaign or adventure mode is actually pretty good. I can understand that perhaps people want Metroid to have a multiplayer mode once again to compete with the modern trends of shooters, and be the Nintendo Switch's grown-up shooter exclusive. But if you ask me, nowadays we have Splatoon to kind of fill that gap. So I don't see it as much as a necessity, even though it could help the company sell more of its recent online service. So for me, as long as the main campaign of the story of the game is up to par with what the series is known for, then I wouldn't mind any sort of other bonus modes or multiplayer battles. Heck, I think it'd be fun if they added another pinball mode as an unlockable feature for the game as a joke mode of sorts. Speaking of which, if there's one thing I've been dying to see make a return in the series, is the ability to play the game as armorless Samus like in the original Metroid with the Justin Bailey code. I think it'd be pretty funny to see Samus without her armor taking down all of the bosses and seeing how her suit could change colors with each upgrade. And I think I have enough suspension of disbelief to accept the idea of Samus suddenly turning into a morph ball. Just say it works because of bird magic and it's all good. If it's not this particular ability, I don't think you can go wrong with adding an older suit into the game to incentivize a second playthrough, like the fusion mode in Samus Returns or the original Metroid Prime. Perhaps even certain amiibos give you different colored skins for your Varia suit depending on which figure you use, and have them give you some sort of cosmetic change to some of your weapons. At least I hope they incorporate the Metroid amiibos in some form into Prime 4 as extra modes or custom skins like it was in Federation Force. Maybe using the Smash Bros. Samus amiibo gives you the other M Varia suit. The Zero Suit 1 gives you a special skin that adds paralyzing features to your attacks. The Samus Returns amiibo could give you the armor from that game with a skill similar to the Aeon abilities. The Ridley could change your armor to look like the pirate and maybe enhance your charge beam, and Dark Samus could perhaps give you a phase-on look to your attacks alongside her armor or even the phase-on suit. Lastly, some other small details that I would like to see in the game is something along the lines that shows some memories from Samus Returns, where getting more items not only gives you a special ending, but also unlocks some secret images or cutscenes that lets you see what happened on the planet before your arrival and thus incentivize players a little bit more to explore the world in its entirety. I think it's safe to say that the concept art bonus you get from logbook percentage will most likely make a return in Prime 4. So it would also be cool if they brought back the ability of being able to see the 3D models from the creatures you scan like in Metroid Prime 2, and a movie mode feature like the one in Other M to make it easier to relive some awesome moments in the game. And obviously, as anybody who follows me on Twitter might already know, that the impossible thing I like to see happen in this game is seeing Elma from Xenoblade Chronicles X teaming up with Samus in some way. But hey, that's just my huge fanboy side talking, and I know it will never happen. Maybe some DLC can help with that problem, right, Sakurai? In the end, I can't help but contain my excitement for the release of Metroid Prime 4. And seeing the current spark of creativity coming from Nintendo's current releases makes me feel sure that this game will meet the excitement of most fans. And hopefully, it won't be too long before the guys at the big end reveal a little bit more information regarding this game and its developments. Let me know what are your thoughts in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.